Ready to do some real living? That's what it says right here on the label. It's a rolling cart my wife picked up at a store called Big Lots for $15 or something like that. It was really cheap. And she thought it might be handy for me to use in some of my projects up in the loft and to store some things in. And because it has flat surfaces, I will sure as the dickens fill them up. But it says assembly required, tools provided. Let's find out. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and as I mentioned at the beginning here, my wife found this at a store called Big Lots, and it was really cheap. I think she said it was $15 or $14.95 or something like that, and thought it would be handy for me to use up in the loft to put things in, and I'll more than likely fill it up. So I've got it all in a box. I got everything laid out here. Of course, you get an assembly book. I haven't even looked at it yet. You got 3 baskets, and they don't all appear to be exactly the same size. One of these is smaller than the other 2, I believe. Yeah, 4 casters here. 2 of them have locking wheels on them. And well, they're adequate for what they are. Screws, nuts, a couple brackets. Tool-wise, you get this really cheesy stamped wrench here. Yeah, we'll see about that. You get an Allen wrench, also called a hex key or an Allen wrench. And you get this really cheesy screwdriver. But there's more. You can pop this out and turn it around, and you got Phillips on the other end. I probably won't be using this. I'll use some of my good tools, but that'll give you an idea. So now we got to get into putting this thing together. Can't be that hard. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. All the parts have little letters on them, and they reference the same thing in the little instruction sheet here. It's pretty simple. You start out by getting your parts D, as what these guys here are, kind of set like this. Then you'll take what they call part E, and you'll see there's holes on one side but not on the other. So those side with the holes will go towards the inside of the cart, and these just slip in there like so. You want to get your holes lined up, and then these small Phillips head screws, those small ones, one goes in each one of those holes. And I'm using a regular screwdriver. I'm not using that little cheesy thing that they gave with it, but that would work if you don't have one of these. Those holes are threaded. You shouldn't have to force anything. They should go in real easy. And something I do is I put all my hardware in these little metal trays. It's magnetic. It helps keep track of everything. Makes things handy to grab, and they aren't rolling all over the table. Like so, and then we'll just repeat it on the other side, and I'll turn this so you can see it a little better maybe. There again, these holes need to face the inside. It slips right in there like so. Make sure the holes line up. Okay, now the next step are the wheels. Obviously they go on the bottom. So you gotta give this a little bit of thought. 2 of these have a brake on them, so the thing doesn't keep rolling around. You got to decide which, if you want them on opposite corners, if you want them on one end. I'm going to put them on one end. Or you could have them on one side. It depends on what your end use is going to be and where you could be able to use your toe to turn these on and off easy. These little nuts they give you here is what's called a jam nut. So you'll need to screw that onto this, on each one of the wheels. I'm going to start out with a non-brake end, and I'll put that in here. There's holes down here where these screw in. And I may even use their cheesy little wrench here, just to be able to make that easy to get a hold of to turn. And I'm taking them up tight right now because I don't know how level this is going to be, but you can use those jam nuts to level this if you want. So I'll put my other non-locking one down here, and I'm going to put my locking ones on this side. If you grab the wheel and then grab the little flange above it at the same time, it makes it easy to turn that in. You don't have to use a wrench to turn it all the way in. And this one happens to be defective because the little thread that goes in there where this screws into is missing. I have a way around that, and I'll fix that myself, but otherwise if would get one of these where that piece is missing, I would take it back. Okay, my solution for now is just leave the wheels off. I'll weld a nut in there later. It's not worth me messing around and take this back, but you know, this can happen to anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be this particular model. I've had other things where there's been something missing like that. So next would be to put in the baskets, and there's a couple different sizes here. They say A, B, and C. So A is the top one, and that would be the smaller one. So this just fits in here. You'll see it'll line up with some holes, and then you have these bolts here. A better view of that. And you can either use the enclosed hex wrench, or in my case I'm going to use ball driver because these are handier. 4 M&Ms if you're keeping track, if you happen to have a set. And what you want to do is start them first. Don't tighten them up till you get all 4 of them in. Flip this around so you can see the other side. And once you get that one in, you can tighten those up. And then the next one here, go mid-level. And it'll kind of sit there, so you get some screws started in it. And lastly here, we'll have the smaller basket goes on top. Find it easier to lay it down on its side to do these. There again, once you get all 4 of them started, go ahead and tighten them up. So there it is, minus the wheels. That's unfortunate that piece was not put in at the factory like it was supposed to be, but like I said, I'm not going to bother having her take this back or anything. I'll just weld a nut in there. I've got a welder. I'm not going to set it up right now, but later on I can do that, or I can just leave it like this, or I could use a different type of wheel. There's a lot of different things I could do here in the shop. But for the average person at home, if you run across that, take it back, exchange it, get another one. Overall though, I think it's fairly sturdy. I wouldn't be putting engine parts in there or anything really heavy, but for craft items or sewing items or things like that, then you want to be able to move this around as you're working. I think it's going to be ideal. I don't believe you could use it to store vinyl in for like a vinyl cutter like a Cricut or a Cameo, because this is not big enough to hold the sheets without them curling. And you definitely couldn't put your cutting mats in there. But like rolls of transfer tape, maybe store some heat tape up here if you do sublimation or heat pressing. This would easily hold copy paper or cartons of sublimation paper. There's quite a few different things you could use this for, and I've already got a couple of thoughts what I'm going to use it for. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. I like putting these little assembly videos together for those that might be a little bit challenged on how this stuff actually goes together. And I show you a couple shortcuts. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.